Hello and welcome back everyone. My name is William Red, your TESOL instructor, and today in this video we'll be continuing on with the TOEIC exam, the types of questions to expect when taking the TOEIC exam. This specific video is geared toward the reading comprehension section. In two other videos we've talked about sentence completion, and we've also talked about text completion, what to expect, what kinds of questions are asked. We even broke down the different kinds of questions and what is really being asked, dealing with vocabulary and grammar and how to break down grammar into more palatable chunks, and how to test ourselves on what specifically we need to work on. In this video, we'll be talking about single and multiple passages. And the reason why we're going in this order is because the other two types of questions kind of scaffold us or build us up to this kind of questioning that might occur. So, for example, we have practice 1, this week's weather forecast. The weather forecast for Asia and Australia predicts warm temperatures for the next few days in Beijing. Thunderstorms on Wednesday could lead to cooler weather Thursday. Episodes of rain in Shanghai this week, some possibly heavy. Typically warm and muggy this week in Hong Kong and Singapore. Windy and cool with showers in Melbourne Wednesday and Thursday, while Brisbane has sunshine every day this week. So the first thing that a learner would need to do when they're reading this question is they would need to determine what is going on. What's the theme, right? A great way to start that is just to look at the title, this week's weather forecast. Okay, so then we're probably talking about the weather. Is it in a specific location? Maybe that's important. Well, I see Asia, Australia, Beijing, Shanghai, Hong Kong, Singapore, Melbourne, Brisbane. So it seems to be global weather. Okay, so now that we've read the text and we've kind of gathered, some background information as to what the text is really about, then we can look at the questions. And of course, there are two ways to approach the questions. You can look at the options first, which is also known as the answers. So you could, for example, number 1, you could look at rain, wind, unusual, warmth, clear skies, and you can kind of separate them into different semantic fields. So what do they have in common? Rain, wind, unusual warmth, clear skies. Well, rain and wind could be a part of, dreary weather, whereas unusual warmth and clear skies could be connected, but at the same time, wind and clear skies could be connected, at least where I'm from. And this is when, culturally speaking, the weather could, how you group these semantically, it could vary. So in this context, maybe it's not best to approach the options or the answers, but maybe to look at what the question is. What is expected for Beijing on Wednesday? Ooh, okay. I think that in this context, what you would focus on is the word Beijing, since we already know by context from the passage that Beijing is mentioned. In this specific situation, I would suggest searching for the specific word Beijing. So, lucky for us, Beijing is actually in the first sentence. The weather forecast for Asia and Australia predicts warm temperature for the next few days in Beijing, semicolon, thunderstorms on Wednesday could lead to cooler weather Thursday. So what is expected for Beijing on Wednesday? So Beijing, we found that word. We kept going on Wednesday. So there's a phrase there, something is happening on Wednesday, so then we just back up a little bit and thunderstorms. How does thunderstorms connect to the answers or the options? Rain, wind, unusual warmth, clear skies. Well, lucky for us, thunderstorms is a compound word, right? So then thunder and storms. What typically happens when there's thunder and storms? Is there rain? Is there wind? Is there unusual warmth? Is there clear skies? And from this, we can kind of understand that if there are thunderstorms, one of the options is clearly not it, right? Because normally when you have thunderstorms, there are not clear skies. So we understand that D is an outlier. It's an option that doesn't really fit within the context of the rest of what's being offered, so we can discard that one. So now we have a higher chance of choosing the right answer. So we have thunderstorms, thunder and storms. What is more prominent, rain, wind, unusual warmth. Well, where I'm from, unusual warmth can occur, especially during the springtime when it's tornado season. But again, this is part of Tornado Alley in Indiana. So that could be, where culturally speaking, there could be a little bit of a bias. But let's think more general. Thunderstorms, hmm, wind, rain, and thunderstorms. My assumption would be that there'd be rain. Sometimes there's wind, but it's not necessary. Whereas a storm typically, includes rain. So that would be my assumption. Moving on to 2. Again, we could read the question first, or we could read the options first. Well, let's just follow suit with the same approach we used for the first question. What does typically warm and muggy in the forecast mean? Well, where is that? Scanning, we're scanning, typically muggy. Okay, so that would be in the third quote-unquote paragraph, right? Typically warm and muggy this week in Hong Kong and Singapore. Okay, so does that mean the weather will be mostly hot and damp? What does muggy mean, right? And that's understanding vocabulary, understanding what the context is, right? Theft is common in the area. Is that what muggy means? Like you're mugging someone, right? That's a semantic understanding of the word. Maybe you understand that to mug someone is a phrase that you can use. So being muggy could be an environment in which that's possible. But we're talking about the weather, right? It will be dry for most of the week. But we're talking about thunderstorms. People should stay inside and keep warm. Well, in the response it says typically warm. So then why would people need to stay inside to keep warm? So it's partly reasoning and common sense, which I use that phrase lightly, common sense. But in this specific context, there's more at play. So in this answer, it should be the weather will be mostly hot and damp, right? Typically warm and muggy. Another way to say that is hot and damp. Yeah? So following this, we have an answer key specifically for that page. And lo and behold, we have for number 1, A, rain. Number 2, the weather will be mostly hot and damp. So using reasoning, it is possible to answer these questions. And in these contexts, it looks like they're trying to understand if the learner is aware of semantic fields, other words that are connected in context to a specific word or expression in the passage. And it can be a single passage. And again, here's another example of a single passage. Longer, more questions, mostly focusing on reading comprehension in more of the general sense. For example, what is the main idea of the article? Instead of asking about a specific word. Who will participate in the alliance? How will members benefit from the alliance? So these questions, they might be able to be found within the text, or it might be something you have to gather from reading it. Implied information. Responses to these. You're always welcome to pause the video at any time to look at the questions and then kind of connect the same way that we did with the first question, first practice example. So here's another type of question that might occur. We had single passage where it's just one box of text, and then you have multiple passage. And this is different in the sense that with a single passage, the questions are geared specifically towards comprehension of that one passage, whereas in a multiple passage situation, you could face questions geared towards a specific portion, so either the first passage or the second passage, or questions that incorporate comprehension in both. So that's kind of an interesting difference between single passage and multiple passage, and one I think is very prevalent and important in this specific type of exam. Harriet, I came across this ad in Industry Journal last week and immediately thought that it's just what we need. I've been looking through brochures for something similar, but haven't found anything that so closely matches what we need. All the others I've seen are good for protecting paper files, but they wouldn't provide protection for our work. This one does, though. The only downside is that it's a bit pricier than other ones I've looked at. Still, I think it's worth the extra few dollars. Take a look and see what you think. Bob. Sure Safe Media Protector. Do not let a fire destroy your business. Protect your priceless media and paper records in one compact unit with SureSafe. Only 65 centimeters high, this safe fits conveniently under a desk or table. It features a 3-number, changeable combination lock with a concealed dial for security. SureSafe provides complete fire protection for electronic media. It also offers the extra heat/humidity protection that film records require. Paper records can withstand temperatures up to 175 degrees Celsius and high humidity, but a temperature of 55 degrees Celsius or a combination of 50 degrees Celsius and humidity greater than 85% will likely destroy film media. The heat humidity protection of SureSafe exceeds industry expectations. So here we have a person, discussing their thoughts about how this could be useful in a specific context, and then we have, the source of SureSafe discussing that, the media. Question 1, how did Bob learn about the SureSafe media protector? That would involve you going back and reading to see how Bob learned about it. What does Bob imply about the SureSafe media protector? And imply is the word to focus in on. He's not being explicit, or it's not specifically written. Maybe he's implying something, right? That's something to focus in on. Another key feature is when a word or question says something like what is not mentioned as being a feature, that is common too. A lot of learners miss those questions because they're not paying attention to the italic and bolded word not. And that, it's just one of those easy mistakes to make when you're going through a test or an exam and there's lots of questions and you have to keep moving. But it's very important to look for words that stick out to you in the questions, and not is one of those great examples. The word withstand in line 7 of the advertisement is closest in meaning to, so this is another type of situation dealing with vocabulary, right? And what is claimed about SureSafe Media Protector? Just gotta read, right? So there are single passage questions, and then there are multiple passage questions, along with sentence completion and text completion. Those types of questions can be found in manuals like this one right here, as we've talked about before. These questions are pulled from this manual. TOEIC, Listening and Reading Test Prep Plus 2019-2020, the Reading section, Reading Comprehension Section. There are other materials too, all kinds, right? There's this one right here. It's titled TOEFL, TOEIC, IELTS, Réussir l'épreuve essai par or by Christelle Diel. So this is predominantly for francophones trying to take an English-speaking exam. We also have this one, La Bible officielle du test TOEIC. So it's the French equivalent, more or less, to the first one we showed, where we got the questions. Lots and lots of different types of manuals. Positives and negatives to a lot of them. Might do a video discussing those pros and cons. But for now, thank you so much for staying tuned. My professional email, is william.s.red25@gmail.com. Feel free to send me an email for information. I also have documents created for these questions. We can make exams. We can talk about things like that. You can also find me on YouTube at Red Talks if you're interested in seeing other materials. Again, thank you so much for staying tuned, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.